Hey, what's up? In this video, I'm going to show you how to force a network on your Web3 application. So what I mean by that is if they connect their wallet and they are on the wrong network, then it shows something like this. And it tells them which was the correct network to connect to. I won't be covering this button in this tutorial, but I will cover that eventually. So right now we're on Ethereum mainnet, but our website wants us to be on RinkB. So if we switch to RinkB, then everything is fine. We switch back to some other network like Arbitrum, then it's like, oh, that's the wrong network. So I will show you how to do this in this tutorial. And all the resources, including this example, the exact code for it, and a blog tutorial of this version of this tutorial will be in the description below. So first things first, your app needs the ability to connect to a wallet. I already have a tutorial for that. If you need to know how to do that, go check out that tutorial first. So first things first, you want to define the network that you want as an environment variable. So in Next.js, you would create a .env.local file, and that's what I've done here. And then you would store a value called next public network, or whatever you want to call it, and then put the name of the network that you want to use. I specifically want to use mainnet, so I put mainnet, and that is step one. And if I might have already just said this, but if it wasn't obvious, this network that you define in the environment variable, that's the one that you want to force on in your application. So the next step is also easy. So pretty much what you need to do is define the desired networks and the related data for those networks. So first things first, you want to create a folder. Pretty much put it wherever you want. I put mine in another folder called stores. But create a folder, call it networks, and then inside that folder, you want to create a file. But yes, inside that folder, you want to put a file for each network that you want. So, for my application, I want to be able to test it on, I want to have an environment for RinkB, and I want to have an environment for mainnet. For this example, I think you really just need one, and that would be RinkB. So yeah, create a file, call it rinkb.ts, and it's going to look just like this. So it's pretty much a class. It implements a certain, I guess you would call that interface. It's been a while that I've dealt with that terminology. But then you define all the data that you want using methods. So if you go through all this, this is pretty much, you want to put data in here that changes with each network. So this is the network name that will be used in code. This is the network name that will be displayed to the user. This is the chain ID, which is unique to all networks. If you ever need to find out where to get this, just Google it. What is the chain ID for RinkB testnet? And then you'll find on Google it's 4. So get deployed addresses. This is where in an application that has contract addresses, I would return a list of contract addresses, and then that would make it so that anywhere in your application you can access all of the deployed contract addresses. And then these are the ABIs which go along with the contract addresses. These are just easily accessible tokens, so you could be like get external addresses dot die or dot weth, and then this is literally a list of all the tokens that you have defined. It's an array of tokens. Instead of easily accessible, it's just an array. I don't really need to go through all this. Just know that this is data specific to this network. And yeah, that's pretty much all you do for this file. And then if you want other networks, do the exact same thing. You just define all the data you need. This is mainnet here. And once you have defined these network files and all the data that you need, we can move on to the next step. So the next step is to write the logic to force only one blockchain network. So first things first, create a file in the networks folder again, except this time call it index.ts. And here I'm defining several types that I'm using in various locations. For example, this is the type that each network file is implementing, and that pretty much enforces that all of these methods here are defined in every single network file. But that's not really important for forcing one blockchain network. So all the networks you want to use, you want to put them here. This is just an array of all the networks you're going to use. We're calling it specifics. And then we have a method for getting that. And then we have another method for specifically getting a network by the network name. But again, that's not really, like, you need these methods, but it's not important logic for forcing the network. So this is the important code. So what this does, it gets your environment variable, the one we defined earlier, and if there is one, it uses it. If there's not, it defaults to rinkb. Stores that in network name, and then we get the network specifics by network name. And this pretty much defines this value, defines this variable called network, and you can use this around the entire application. And what this value gives you is all the data in this file. So if you are on rinkb testnet, then you will be able to access network.get network name, and it will give you rinkb. If you're using mainnet, so if in here you defined it as mainnet, then network.get network name will be mainnet. Okay, so that is the first part of the logic that needs to be implemented in order to force one blockchain network. Next part, we need to do the actual visual aspect of it. So create a file and call it wrong network overlay. And this will be a component. I'm assuming you are using React. If not, you should be able to follow along still with the logic that I'm doing here. So if you're using Web3 React, then you can pull two very important values, active and chain ID. If you're not using Web3 React, you can still get these values no matter which provider you've implemented in your web app. So active says, is the user actively connected to a wallet? Chain ID is the network that the user is connected to in their wallet. So chain ID is a unique ID describing this value. If I change it to Ethereum mainnet, then it'll be the chain ID for Ethereum mainnet. And the way we can tell if they are on the wrong network, take the chain ID that is defined, that you get by creating this environment variable. You can kind of think of this as the base. This is where it all starts. You define which network you want in your environment variable, and then it goes in here, and using that environment variable, it gets all the data and stores it in network. Then in here you do network.getChainID, and that's decided based on this value. And then if it does not equal the chain ID that the user is connected to in their MetaMask wallet, then they're on the wrong network. Then pretty much what you want to do is show that they are on the wrong network, show a message that they are on the wrong network if their wallet is connected to your web app and if they are on the wrong network. You can also pretty much change this if you would like. You could make it where you can show it even if they're not connected to a wallet. However, I like to make it where if the user is not connected to a wallet, then they can browse the website and still use it. But if they're connected to the wallet, then they're trying to do some sort of transaction using their wallet, then they should know that they're on the wrong network and it should tell them. And that's pretty much it. If show is false, then don't show it. But if show is true, then show whatever HTML you want to show. So specifically, I wanted to show this, which is just a little message just saying, hey, you're on the wrong network. Please connect to the correct network. And you can see that this says Rinkeby, and we use that network variable to get the human readable network name, which is pretty cool. And there's one other small thing I want to mention, and that is if you, here, one second. So the one other thing that I wanted to mention is sometimes if the network is not supported, if you made it so the network is literally not supported and cannot be connected to, then your wrong network overlay modal will not even show up. Like, you won't even be able to connect to the wallet. So for example, what I mean, I don't support Ropsten, I don't think. If I switch to Ropsten, okay, apparently I do support it. Anyways, pretty much what I'm saying, if you don't support the network in your code specifically, then a lot of times what happens is you try to connect a wallet and it just literally won't connect. So you won't get a wrong network overlay interface. And if you run into that, just know you need to put that chain ID and make it supported by your website. And then it will be able to connect to the user's wallet and it will be able to show, hey, this is a wrong network for that network. Small thing, you probably won't run into it, but just wanted to mention that. Well, I hope this helped. If it did, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, we have a growing community of developers in the Discord server, so feel free to join that, and I'll see you next time.